picture this. You've just downloaded, a state-of-the-art local data workspace.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You boot up Datok, you start dragging all these tools onto the canvas, and, I don't know, within an hour, connection lines are crisscrossing everywhere like a bowl of neon spaghetti.
Oh, the classic spaghetti pipeline.
Exactly. And suddenly you realize you have absolutely no idea how this pipeline works anymore.
Right. You're just totally lost in your own creation.
Yes. You're basically fighting the interface instead of, actually analyzing the data.
It is, it's a very real phenomenon, like dashboard paralysis.
Dashboard paralysis.
There is just immense processing power sitting right underneath your fingertips, but the cognitive load required to actually translate your logical thoughts into a physical pipeline, it feels incredibly clunky.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we're here. Welcome to this deep dive. I'm Alex Martinez, veteran data architect.
And I'm Sarah Chen, tech analyst.
And today is all about getting you past that paralysis. We've been going through all the documentation, the interface layouts, the release notes for Datok, and our mission today is to extract a highly curated tips and tricks guide.
Basically, the secret menu.
Yes, the secret menu of shortcuts that power users rely on so you can stop wrestling with the mechanics and actually start orchestrating your data.
Because, in a fully local, high-performance environment like this, efficiency it's rarely bottlenecked by your computer's RAM or the processor. The bottleneck is almost always human. It's about reducing the friction between your intention and the software's execution.
So let's tackle that friction from literally the very first second you open the application.
Okay, let's do it.
Before you start building complex data pipelines, what the industry calls ETL or extract, transform, and load processes, you need to know how to safely test drive the software.
Yeah, you don't want to break anything on day one.
Exactly. It's like renting a complicated piece of heavy machinery. First, you want to locate the emergency stop. And then you want to take it for a spin in an empty parking lot before you ever try to merge onto the highway.
That parking lot analogy is crucial, actually, because mixing experimental learning with real, mission-critical company data, that is a recipe for absolute disaster.
100%.
And Datok handles this separation visually. Like when you first open the workspace, you'll notice this bright green banner anchored to the very top of the interface.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah, it explicitly states example workspace, and then in parentheses, viewing samples.
And right next to your main module tabs like prep and analyze, there is this highly visible button that simply says close samples.
Right.
Now, I'm assuming this isn't just like a cosmetic label. It acts as a hard boundary between the sandbox and your actual hard drive, right?
It acts as an absolute environmental toggle. By keeping you in that sample environment by default, the interface is implicitly giving you permission to break things.
Which is so freeing.
Exactly. You can perform a massive transpose operation or accidentally create a million-row crosstab, and you're only manipulating dummy data sets.
No harm, no foul.
Right. And then, with one click of that Close Samples button, you are instantly back in your local production-ready workspace.
Okay, so you're in the sandbox, right? You're in the prep module, and you drag a completely unfamiliar tool onto the canvas.
Let's say it's the multi-row formula tool.
Good one. So you stare at it. Now, the traditional software reflex, for me at least, is to open a browser, search the internet or the documentation, scroll past 3 irrelevant forum posts, and then finally find the syntax you need.
Which completely destroys your concentration.
It really does. But I noticed Datok doesn't have a giant glowing help menu dominating the screen.
No, it doesn't.
If documentation is so critical, why hide the primary help function? Why not keep a persistent help sidebar open at all times?
What all comes down to maintaining the flow state. Datok is built to operate entirely locally and offline. If the interface forces you to, switch tabs or dig through nested menus, your brain has to drop its current working memory of the pipeline.
Oh, I hate when that happens. You lose your whole train of thought.
Exactly. To prevent that, they tied the documentation directly to the tool itself. If you see a tool on the canvas, or even just sitting in the sidebar palette, you just right-click its icon.
Wait, just right-click?
Just right-click, and it instantly loads the specific help guide for that tool directly inside your active workspace.
Oh, wow. So you literally never leave the cockpit?
Never. Contextual, instant help, keeps your eyes on the data and your hands on the canvas.
That makes so much sense. You don't have to rebuild your mental model of the pipeline just because you forgot the syntax for a specific join.
Precisely.
Okay, so you know how to safely test drive the software. You can instantly identify what a tool does by right-clicking. But navigating the prep canvas presents another massive hurdle, which is actually finding the tool you need in the first place.
Yeah, that palette can get overwhelming.
Right. The documentation shows dozens of these things. Tools for data cleansing, regular expressions, developer inputs. You could lose serious time just visually scanning a giant list of icons.
Well, the interface designers recognize that visual searching is inherently slow. So they've built this smart tool palette in the prep sidebar. It features category filter pills.
Filter pills.
Yeah, sorting tools into logical buckets like in-out, prep, aggregation, and developer.
Kind of like a professional chef's physical toolbox. You don't just dump all your knives, spatulas, and peelers into one massive drawer.
Right, that'd be chaotic.
You organize them so you don't accidentally grab a meat cleaver when you need a whisk.
And the interface actually enforces that cleanliness using tabbed folding. If you click the aggregation category tab, the drawer expands to show those specific tools.
Okay.
But it simultaneously hides all irrelevant tools. It purposefully restricts your options to keep the UI completely uncluttered.
I mean, I can see the value in that, but here is my immediate concern with that kind of folding. What if I don't know your taxonomy? What if I know I need the regex tool for extracting strings of text, but I just can't remember if your developers decided it belongs in the prep folder or the developer folder? I'm going to be furiously clicking through drawers looking for it.
Which is exactly why the search bar, positioned right next to those filter pills, operates completely independently of the folder structure.
Oh, so it overrides the active tab.
It's a brilliant concession to the limits of human memory. You just type regex into the search bar, and the tool appears instantly, regardless of which folder is currently open or closed.
That's awesome.
You don't have to memorize the software's internal logic. You just type and go.
I want to build on that chef analogy from earlier. The smart search basically turns that organized drawer into a magnetic rack that automatically hands you the exact spatula the second you think about flipping a burger, keeping all the sharp knives safely hidden away.
That's a great way to picture it.
Now, while we're searching for tools in the prep palette, there's one specific icon mentioned in the documentation we absolutely have to unpack. The robot icon.
Oh, yes. The AI Llama LLM tool.
This completely redefines what is possible in local data processing.
It really does. It's huge.
Because when most of us hear AI, large language model, we immediately think of the cloud, right?
Right. Usually OpenAI or Anthropic.
Exactly. We think of sending our data to external servers, paying API compute costs, and most importantly, dealing with massive privacy red flags. I mean, if I'm working with sensitive healthcare records or financial invoices, I can't just bounce that data to a third-party server.
You absolutely cannot. And that's why Datok integrates local LLM processing directly into the pipeline workflow. It communicates with the Llama service running silently in the background of your own machine.
Wait, meaning not a single byte of data ever leaves my computer?
Entirely offline.
That is wild.
I mean, if you have a high-end workstation with a dedicated GPU, you can run massive 70 billion parameter models locally. But even on a standard business laptop, using just your CPU, you can run highly optimized smaller models.
So instead of writing 100 lines of complex code to parse an invoice, I can just use a natural language prompt.
Exactly.
I can feed it a column of messy, unstructured text and tell the local AI, like, classify this name's gender or extract the primary company name from this block of text.
And it executes those complex natural language processing tasks using your own hardware.
Okay.
You get the reasoning capabilities of advanced AI built directly into a secure offline data pipeline.
That is genuinely a game changer. Okay, so before we move on to how we visually organize all this, there's actually a hidden gem I want to bring up. Let's say you're building this AI pipeline, right? And you just want to do a quick check on the output of a specific node. Like, you don't want to build a whole new analyze worksheet just yet.
Right, you just need a glance.
Exactly. I noticed there's an analyze button tucked away inside the prep configuration panels.
Oh yeah, the configuration panels for input, output, and browse.
Yeah, if you hit that analyze button from within the prep module, it opens up this temporary scratch pad pivot window.
It is such a good feature. It basically pops up a mini pivot table right there without affecting your main analyze worksheets at all.
It's just a scratch pad. You can throw a few dimensions in, see if the AI actually classified the text correctly, and then close it out without cluttering up your actual visualization workspace.
It's perfect for rapid validation.
Right. Okay, so let's look at where we are. We found our tools instantly using the independent search. We've pulled them onto the canvas. We're classifying text with local AI, joining streams of data, checking it in the Scratchpad. We have built a robust ETL process.
Sounds like a great pipeline.
But now we hit the problem we talked about at the very beginning.
The spaghetti.
We are back to the bowl of spaghetti. The canvas is cluttered with 50 different nodes. If I step away for a weekend and come back on Monday, I won't even remember what logic I built. How do you keep it readable for yourself, let alone a colleague?
Visual organization. It is arguably just as critical as the data logic itself.
Okay.
This is where Datok introduces the binder tool, which is represented by a little artist's palette icon and the comment tool in the prep module.
So looking at the binder, it appears to be a visual canvas documentation block, right? You basically draw colored background borders that physically encapsulate a group of nodes on the screen.
Exactly. You can slap a header text on these boxes like data cleansing phase or client adjoin and customize the border colors.
And I noticed there are transparency options too, right? So you can have these tinted backgrounds that don't obscure the grid underneath.
Right. It keeps things from looking too heavy on the screen. And here's the best part. The nodes physically stick to the binder.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you grab the colored box and move it, all the tools inside it move with it.
That is so satisfying.
It really is. And you can also use the comment tool to drop formatted sticky text notes right onto the canvas next to specific operations.
Okay, I have to challenge this feature just a little bit because I can hear the data purists rolling their eyes right now.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
This sounds like putting colored tape on an audio mixing board. Sure, it looks nice, and it helps the audio engineer remember which slider is the bass guitar. But does wrapping nodes in a binder actually alter how the data is processed? Like, if I group 10 tools in a green binder, does it change the execution plan in the underlying SQLite database engine?
The short answer is absolutely not. The binder has zero impact on the data processing or the SQLite backend.
So it is purely cosmetic metadata.
It is metadata specifically for the human operator.
Okay.
But to dismiss it as purely cosmetic ignores a fundamental reality of data architecture. Code is read far more often than it is written.
Ah, the classic bus factor. Like, if the person who built the pipeline gets hit by a bus, can the rest of the team actually decipher the logic?
Precisely. Visual grouping separates an unmaintainable, error-prone mess from a professional, scalable pipeline. It acts as self-documenting code.
That makes total sense.
When a pipeline inevitably fails 3 months from now, or when a new team member needs to update a taxonomy rule, those visual binders and sticky comments drastically reduce the cognitive load required to understand the graph. They don't help the machine process the data faster. They help the human process the logic faster.
I really like that framing. It doesn't help the machine, it helps the human.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've logically structured your pipeline. Your canvas is beautifully organized with translucent binders. Your comments explain your complex regular expressions, and your raw data has been transformed and output into a clean local database.
Success.
The natural next problem is that organized data is still just millions of rows of text and numbers. The human brain can't really read a database. We have to map it visually to understand the trends.
Which transitions us from preparing the data to actually visualizing it in the main analyze module.
Right. And doing that typically requires writing complex SQL aggregations to group and count everything up. How does Datok bypass the need to write SQL just to see what your data looks like?
It relies on a drag-and-drop pivot grid builder in the analyze module.
Okay.
You're dealing with two primary concepts here. Dimensions, which are your categories like region or customer segment, and measures, which are your numerical values like total sales or profit.
One quick thing before we dive into dragging and dropping the analyze interface itself.
Oh, the layout.
Yeah. If you have all these dimensions and measures, the sidebar can get pretty cramped. But I saw you can actually minimize the configuration panels in the Analyze sidebar.
Yes, you can minimize those configuration blocks to maximize the space for your field list. It gives you a huge, clean view of all your available dimensions and measures, which is so nice when you're working with wide data sets.
It really is the little UI touches that matter.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the data. Real-world data is rarely perfectly categorized right out of the box.
Unfortunately true.
Suppose I have a dimension that is just a massive list of unique customer IDs, and they're formatted as text. I don't want to list 10,000 customer IDs in a pivot table. I want to count how many unique customers I have in a specific region.
Right. Now, in a traditional workflow, You'd have to completely halt your visual exploration, open a formula editor, or write a custom SQL query to create a new metric.
Which totally breaks the flow state again.
Exactly.
Yep.
But in Datok, you utilize that same right-click muscle memory you developed in the prep module. You just right-click that text dimension in the sidebar and select Convert to Measure.
So when I click that, I'm assuming Datok is automatically writing a SQL query in the background. Like it's generating a distinct count D wrapper around that field.
That is exactly what happens under the hood.
Yeah.
It instantly transforms that text list into a numerical measure. You can then drag that new measure into your pivot table and instantly see exactly how many unique customers exist in each grouping.
No coding required.
None at all.
But hold on. As someone who thinks about data architecture all day, automatically generating SQL wrappers sounds like a fast track to a bloated, polluted schema.
I know where you're going with this.
Right. If I am just rapidly experimenting, like converting dimensions to measures, pivoting them, deciding I don't like the view, and moving on to something else, I'm going to end up with dozens of hidden calculated fields. My field list is going to be filled with orphaned garbage calculations.
Schema bloat is a massive issue in traditional data visualization tools. It clutters the interface and slows down the database. But this is where the design of Datok shines through an automatic cleanup function.
Wait, how does it know what is garbage and what is intentional?
By tracking your actions. If you take that generated count D measure and decide you want it back as a regular dimension, you simply right-click it again and convert it back.
Okay.
The moment you revert it, Datok doesn't just change the label. It actively cleans up the backend and permanently deletes that helper calculation.
Wow. It removes the technical debt automatically. It basically leaves no trace.
It encourages fearless exploration. You can instantly see the quantitative shape of qualitative data without the friction of manually writing SQL,
Right.
and, more importantly, without the fear of permanently breaking or polluting your workspace.
That drastically lowers the barrier to entry for analyzing a new data set. You were just clicking and exploring.
Exactly.
And the right-click menu goes further than just counts, doesn't it? I see you can duplicate fields with a single click, which auto-generates a suffix like field 1.
Yep, great for experimenting on a copy of a field.
But the feature that really caught my eye is the ability to build hierarchies from that right-click menu.
Hierarchies are fundamental for building interactive drill-down dashboards.
Let's explain the mechanics of that, because it addresses a very specific pain point. Like if I have separate dimensions for region, country, and state, hunting for all three every time I want to build a geographic pivot table is incredibly tedious.
It is. So instead, you just right-click those related fields, select Create Hierarchy, and group them into a single top-down collapsible folder.
The documentation mentions you simply use up and down arrows in the interface to define the relationship. I assume you just arrow region to the top, country in the middle, and state at the bottom.
Yes, exactly. And once they're grouped, they function as a single unit in your pivot table. When you drag that hierarchy onto the canvas, it automatically provides drill-down functionality.
That's super clean.
Plus, you can expand and collapse the folders directly in the sidebar, which keeps your overall field list incredibly clean and organized.
Speaking of regions and countries, there is one more right-click feature in the Analyze module that we have to cover. We've talked about bypassing SQL for counting, but what about spatial rendering? Datok tries to auto-detect location data, but if it misses something, you can actually manually intervene.
Yeah, you can right-click any dimension, hover over geographical role, and manually define the data type.
So you're explicitly telling the system, this text field isn't just a list of random words. These are physical cities or countries or continents.
Right, and the moment you do that, a tiny globe icon appears next to the field name in the sidebar.
Oh, nice.
That little icon is the visual confirmation that Datok now understands your data spatially.
And the power of that globe icon is what happens next, right? You can drag that field into the pivot rows, and Datok will automatically plot those locations onto interactive map backgrounds.
Yep.
And it offers both choropleth maps, where the actual geographic boundaries of a country or state are shaded based on your metrics, and symbol maps, which plot proportional bubbles over specific locations.
But the truly impressive part is how it executes this. It renders these interactive dark mode maps entirely locally.
This brings us back to the privacy and speed discussion from earlier. Normally, rendering a dynamic map requires pinging a cloud mapping API.
Right, like Google Maps or Mapbox.
Yeah, you send your coordinates to an external server, wait for the rendered tiles to come back, and deal with all the latency.
Which breaks the flow state if your internet connection is slow. Or Worse, completely violates data privacy policies if your dataset contains sensitive geographic concentrations. But Datok resolves the coordinates and renders the interactive map using its own internal engine right there on your local machine.
So I can take a plain text column of customer cities, right-click it to assign a geographical role, drag it onto the canvas, and instantly generate a fully interactive, offline, global heat map.
It perfectly encapsulates the core philosophy of the software, systematically removing every barrier between your raw data and the final insight.
Okay, so let's tie this all together for you. We've mapped out the hidden shortcuts that take a user from feeling completely overwhelmed by a blank canvas to orchestrating data like a Datok power user.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We started with the foundational importance of sandboxing, utilizing that close samples button to toggle between risk-free experimentation and production reality. We explored how the application maintains your flow state by hiding the primary help documentation behind a simple right-click, keeping your attention locked on the canvas.
And we looked at the mechanics of taming the prep module. We detailed how the independent search bar functions as a failsafe against the limits of human memory, allowing you to bypass folder taxonomies entirely.
Right.
We highlighted the massive security and performance benefits of running offline, 70 billion parameter AI models to clean your text. And of course, we explained why visual organization tools like binders and comments aren't just cosmetic. They're essential metadata for the human operator, drastically reducing the cognitive load required to read a complex pipeline.
Finally, we broke down how to navigate the Analyze module without writing a single line of SQL.
The scratch pads, the auto cleanup.
Yes. From fearlessly converting text dimensions to measures, knowing the system will automatically clean up the generated technical debt if you change your mind, to structuring clean hierarchies, minimizing sidebars for space, and rendering beautiful offline geographic maps with a single right click.
It's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
But, if we step back and look at the sheer capability packed into this single local workspace, it forces us to ask a much larger question about the trajectory of our industry.
How so?
Well, for the last 10 years, the entire tech world has been obsessed with the cloud, right? Software as a service.
Yeah.
We've been told that real processing power, AI reasoning, and complex data rendering can only happen on massive, centralized server farms.
You rent the software and you rent the processing power.
Exactly. But here we have a standalone desktop application. It automatically manages its own generated SQL calculations behind the scenes. It effortlessly runs offline, massively complex LLMs to categorize your text. It renders global mapping coordinates without a single API call.
So the question is, are we witnessing a massive pendulum swing back to desktop computing?
I think we might be. As local hardware becomes exponentially more powerful, and as companies become increasingly paranoid about data privacy and cloud compute costs, the era of everything must live in the cloud might be ending. We might be moving back to a world where the ultimate power user is simply the one with the best local machine and the smartest standalone software.
It makes you wonder how many massive SaaS subscriptions are going to be replaced by a single, powerful, local application over the next 5 years. It's a fascinating shift in the landscape.
It really is.
And that is exactly what we want you to explore. Go fire up your local Datok instance, load up those sample data sets, and stay in the sandbox for a bit. Seriously, just try right-clicking everything in sight, build a colored binder, feed a messy text column into the local AI, convert a dimension just to see the automatic cleanup in action, and watch what happens. Stop fighting the interface and start orchestrating your data.